تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. قال جل وعلا: القارعة ما القارعة وما أدراك ما القارعة يوم يكون الناس كالفراش المبثوث وتكون الجبال كالعهن المنفوش فأما من ثقلت موازينه فهو في عيشة راضية وأما من خفت موازينه فأمه هاوية وما أدراك ما هي نار حامية. وقال جل وعلا: فإذا جاءت الصاخة يوم يفر المرء من أخيه وأمه وأبيه وصاحبته وبنيه لكل امرئ منهم يومئذ شأن يغني وجوه يومئذ مسفرة ضاحكة مستبشرة ووجوه يومئذ عليها غبرة ترهقها قترة أولئك هم الكفرة الفجرة. Respected ulama, my respected elders, my brothers, my sisters, and my little ones, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. After praising the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and sending salutations on our beloved Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, I begin as always by first thanking you, my host, for giving me this opportunity to convey the message of Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. I pray to the Almighty Allah that Allah accepts these efforts of yours in listening to this message, as I pray to the Almighty Allah that Allah accepts these efforts of mine in trying to deliver the message of Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam as it was revealed to our beloved Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in its pure and true form over 1400 years ago. My young friends, let me take you back to July 1999. July 1999, and the false French prophet of the 16th century was on the lips of everybody. This guy made it big time. Radio, TV, chat shows. Everyone around the globe was talking about one man, Nostradamus, and his prediction that the world was going to come to an end. Now, though much of what Nostradamus predicted turned out to be wrong in the past, but in spite of this, many people actually believed that the world was going to come to an end the day Nostradamus predicted that the world was going to come to an end. So much so that you had some from amongst the kuffar looking for a refuge, looking for a safe haven, looking for a place to hide, something that will save them from doom and destruction. In the city of Leeds, not too far from where I live, around 8 miles away, you had the New Age travelers sitting in a neat round circle in the center of Leeds with all their belongings and their heads down, waiting for the world to come to an end. You know, Allah works in miraculous ways, and I can still remember to this day, because this was the first time I actually delivered this reminder. There was thunder and there was lightning on that particular day. And I guess that increased the fear in the heart of the weak. Those that actually believed that the world was going to come to an end. But I ask you, my young friends, did the world come to an end the day Nostradamus predicted that the world will come to an end? No, because you're still sitting here. Well, in 2015, I'm talking about 1999. You're still here. The world didn't come to an end. And then when the millennium was around the corner, again, the talk of the town was that the millennium will bring with it the descension of Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam. Sayyidina Isa will descend from the heavens. A great battle will take place. Armageddon will take place. And the world will come to an end. Now don't get me wrong, guys. As believers, as the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, we also believe in the descension of Sayyidina Isa alayhi salatu wasalam. Sayyidina Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, at this moment in time as I address you and you listen to the reminder, is alive and alive in the heavens. Allah says in the Quran, وَمَا قَتَلُوهُ وَمَا صَلَبُوهُ. And the Jews didn't kill him. وَمَا صَلَبُوهُ. And they didn't crucify him. وَلَكِنْ شُبِّهَ لَهُمْ. The resemblance of Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam was placed on another individual, and it was this second individual that they killed. As for Isa, بَرَّفَأَهُ اللَّهُ إِلَيْهِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raised him to the heavens. And as I address you at this moment in time, he's in the heavens, and he will descend before the end of time. وَإِنَّهُ لَعِلْمُ لِلسَّاعَةِ. As a sign before the end of time to kill the Dajjal. So we also believe Sayyidina Isa alayhi salatu wasalam is alive in the heavens and will descend before the end of time as a sign of the end of time. But at that particular time, people actually believed on the turn of the millennium that Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam will descend immediately after the millennium, and this huge battle will take place, Armageddon will take place, and before you know it, the hour will take place. So much so that you actually had some people migrating to the blessed land of Sham, next to Mount Olives, because this is where they believe Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam is going to descend. So they wanted to witness the moment Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam descends from the heavens, and they wanted to treasure this, so they were moving from their hometowns to Baytul Maqdis, waiting for the hour to come to an end. But I ask you, my young friends, did the millennium bring with it the descension of Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam? 2015. And at this moment in time, still 15 years on from the millennium, and there is no sign of Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam, and there is no sign of Armageddon, there's no sign of this huge battle before the end of time. At this moment in time, still the talk of the town is that the world is on the verge of coming to an end. Recently, the current situation in the Middle East, and recently you had the revolutions in Egypt, you had revolution in Libya, Tunisia, currently what is happening in the blessed land of Sham, believers killing one another. Again, the talk of the town is that, you know what, the world is on the verge of coming to an end. Believe me, guys, people were talking about the end of the world 10 years ago. People were talking about the end of the world 50 years ago. People were talking about the end of the world 500 years ago. People were talking about the end of the world 1400 years ago at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. One Bedouin after another would come and ask you, Ya Rasulullah, mat as-sa'ah? O Messenger of Allah, please tell me, when is the final hour? Allah himself relates in the Quran, O Muhammad, يَسْأَلُكَ النَّاسُ عَنِ السَّاعَةِ. O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, they ask you with regards to the final hour, when is the final hour? Allah himself answers, قُلْ إِنَّمَا عِلْمُهَا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. Say, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the knowledge of the hour is only and only with Allah. يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ السَّاعَةِ أَيَّانَ مُرْسَاهَا. In other words of the Quran, O Muhammad, they ask you with regards to the final hour, when will the hour take place? فِيمَ أَنْتَ مِنْ ذِكْرَاهَا. It is not the business of a Nabi to tell the exact time of the final hour. The knowledge of the hour is with Allah. At the time of Rasulullah, the Bedouins would come and ask one after the other, مَتَى السَّاعَةِ? When will the hour take place? And believe me, guys, 10 years from now, people will still be talking about the hour. 20 years from now, 50 years from now, 100 years from now, people will always talk about the final hour. It seems to me as if the final hour excites people. It seems to me as if the final hour is some form of entertainment, pastime. And the reason I say it seems to me as if the final hour is a form of entertainment, a pastime. It seems to me as if the final hour excites people, because you don't see people waking up during the night begging for Allah's mercy. You don't see people waking up during the night and asking Allah to protect them and save them from the fire of hell. You don't see people waking up during the night prostrating before the Lord of the Arsh and Kursi. You don't see them waking up during the night and asking Allah, "Oh Allah, I beg you, purify me and forgive my sins and allow me return, just like the day my mother gave me birth, free and pure from sin." You don't see people striving and sacrificing and preparing to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look at our masajid. I mean, I'm not in a position to talk about what happens here, but the little country that I come from is not even as big as New York State. And you have over 1,000 masjids. Over 1,000 masjids. And these masjids are literally empty. How many people will you find inside a masjid? And our masjids are not like your masjids where you need a car to get to the masjid. Our masjids are within the heart of the community. 700 meters away, 800 meters away, 500 meters away, and for some people 100 meters away. You can literally walk. Takes you about a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes to get to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But how many people will you actually find in the house of Allah at the time of Fajr? How many people will you find at the time of Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha? Yet within that same community, you have literally got thousands and thousands of people that live within walking distance of a masjid. And how much are we spending on these masajid? Our masajid are being decorated like never before. Never in history our masjids have been decorated like they've been decorated at this moment in time. We're spending millions and millions of dollars on our masajid. And just like the Nabi of Allah predicted and prophesied, لا تقوم الساعة حتى يتباحى الناس في المساجد, that the hour will not take place till people will begin to boast with one another with regards to the masajid. One will say, you know, my masjid, mashallah, look at how beautiful our masjid is. There's marble everywhere. Another one will say, you know what, our masjid is a lot better than your masjid. Look at the way we built our masjid. The architraves are oak. You know, the door frames are of oak. The doors are of oak. The mimbers made out of oak. So this is exactly what is happening at this moment in time. Millions of pounds are spent on the masajid, yet our masjids are not producing what the masjid of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam produced 1400 years ago. How simple was the masjid of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam 1400 years ago? It didn't even have carpet. You know, they were using the trunks of date palms for the masjid. Yet this masjid produced the likes of Abu Bakr. It produced the likes of Umar, Usman, Ali, Talha, Zubair, Sa'd, Sa'id. People that elevated the kalima La ilaha illallah in different corners of the globe. Where does Sayyidina Abu Ayyub al-Ansari lay buried to this day? Constantinople, Istanbul, Turkey. Thousands of miles away from Madinatul Munawwara. Elevating the kalima La ilaha illallah. You'll have some Sahabi buried in Russia. You'll have some Sahabi buried in Turkey. Some Sahabi in North Africa. Different corners of the globe. This was the simple masjid of Rasulullah, and this is what the masjid of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam produced. And today we have masjids costing millions, and our masjids are empty. Yet does it not surprise you that the same masjid on a Jummah, all of a sudden, it's so full that in some masajid, and it probably applies here as well, that you're having to hold a second Jumu'ah. And look what happens on Eid. Not one Jamaat. You'll have a Jamaat at 7 o'clock. You'll have Jamaat at 8 o'clock. You'll have a Jamaat at 9 o'clock. And you may even have a Jamaat at 10 o'clock. Yet on a normal day of the week, you will not even fill one saf for Salah in Fajr Salah. All of a sudden now you've got 10,000 people turning up for Eid Salah. People that you've never ever seen in your entire life. What excites us with regards to the Akhirah? We're not striving and sacrificing and preparing to meet our Allah. We're not worshipping Allah as Allah should be worshipped. We're not fasting as we should fast. We're not elevating the kalima la ilaha illallah as we should be elevating the kalima la ilaha illallah. We do not enjoin good and forbid evil as we should be enjoining good and forbid evil. We do not respect our mothers and fathers as we should be respecting our mothers and fathers. We do not address them in terms of honor as we should be addressing them in terms of honor. We do not contribute to the society that we live in as we should be contributing to the society that we live in. What excites us with regards to meeting Allah when we are not fulfilling our purpose in life? I ask you, my young friends, if here and now you were to learn that the angel of death is present in this gathering, he's outside this masjid, outside your main doors, and he has a card with him, and on this card is written your name, Ahmad, Muhammad, Abu Bakr, whoever you are. And all you have is half an hour to live. 30 minutes from now, the angel's waiting. And he's come to take your soul. I ask you, my young friend, who from amongst us will start jumping for joy? Will that excite anyone? Will you now start jumping for joy? Okay, guys, I'm going on a trip. 30 minutes from now, I'm going with the angel of death. Will you now start celebrating? Will you now start giving mitai and barfi out and chocolates out? Okay, guys, I'm going to go meet my Allah. I swear by Allah, again, I'm not in a position to talk about anyone other than myself. You know, if I were to come to know that the angel of death is out there and on that card is my name, Ahmad Ali, and I've only got half an hour to live, and after half an hour, death do us part, the angel is going to take my soul. You know what? Never mind, within half an hour, my throat will dry, and I swear by Allah, the blood in my body would freeze. It stopped flowing. The hair on my body would stand. Why would the hair on my body stand? Every single hair on my body would stand. My throat would go dry. The blood in my veins would stop flowing. Why would it stop flowing? I'll tell you why, because you know what? Now that I know that the angel's out there and I've got half an hour to go, I know the joke has come to an end. إِنَّمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا لَعِبٌ وَلَهْوٌ. You know, at this moment in time, I thought this dunya was just play, amusement. You know, my parents told me about accountability. I read about accountability. But you know, deep down, I didn't believe. Because I never performed any deeds. And now that I know that the angel's out there and all I've got is half an hour, believe me, I will be overawed with fear. So much fear that the blood in my body will stop flowing, because now I know the joke has come to an end. Now you might think this guy is some scholar or some Ali Medina or some big, you know, Maulana Sabarao. But you know, at the end of the day, you don't know me and you can never know me. Nobody knows me better than I know myself. And I know I have not fulfilled my purpose in life as Allah ordained, as Rasulullah ﷺ said, I should fulfill my purpose in life. I didn't bow down and prostrate before Allah as I should have bowed down and prostrated before Allah. I didn't enjoin and good forbid evil as I should have enjoyed and good forbid evil. I didn't fast in the month of Ramadan as I should have fasted in the month of Ramadan. When I performed my Hajj, I did not perform my Hajj in the manner that Allah ordained that I performed my Hajj. My young friends, at this moment in time, I'm getting flashbacks. And it's not of the goods that I've done in my life at this moment in time. And I know my life like I know the back of my hand. The things that are coming to mind at this moment in time is every sin that I committed in the last 40 years. I can never forget them. How can I forget them? I'm the one that did them. I may pretend that I've done no wrong, but now that I know accountability is round the corner, now that I know that I've only got half an hour to go, the only thing that flashes in my mind are the wrongs that I did in the dunya. And you know what the fear is? The fear is I'm going in half an hour. I know the wrongs that I did like I know the back of my hand. What if Allah holds me to account just because of one of them wrongs? Just because of one of them sins, Allah holds me to account. Allah questions, and I'm doomed for the fire of hell. This is what terrifies me, not death. Death doesn't terrify me. Why should death terrify you? We believe. We're believers. كُلُّ نَفْسٍ ذَائِقَةُ الْمَوْتِ. We all believe that you come in the dunya for a set and fixed time. And we all believe that you're going to go. Our fathers went. Our grandfathers went. Our great-grandfathers went. Where are you and I going to remain? So there's no fear of death because we know we're going to go. The fear is of accountability. The fear is we didn't live our life as we should have lived. We did not fulfill our purpose in life. And the fear is, what if now Allah holds us to account just because of one of them sins, and as a result we're doomed for hell? Believe me, son, when you're 6 foot under, it's not an easy ride. When you go 6 foot under, it's not an easy ride. Do not be deceived. Do not be deceived. If you did not believe, if you did not fulfill your purpose in life, if you had no time for Allah and His Rasul because the big apple got the better of you and this dunya enticed you and sucked you in, believe me, once you're 6 foot under, it will not be an easy ride. Sayyidina Usmani Ghani radiallahu ta'ala was from the Ashari Mubashara. He received glad tidings of paradise from Rasulullah. Not once. Many times this man received glad tidings from Rasulullah. He was a guaranteed Jannati. But in spite of this, when he would stand next to a grave, so many tears would flow from his blessed eyes that his blessed beard would become wet. And the people would ask, "O Uthman, tazkurul wal Jannah wal nar, fala tabki." Jannat and Jahannam is mentioned and you don't cry. Yet when the mention of a grave takes place, you cry so much that your blessed beard becomes wet. And Sayyidina Usman Ghani radiallahu ta'ala would respond, that is because my beloved Nabi has said, in al-qabr awwalu manazil al-akhirah, that the qabr is the first stage of the stages of the hereafter. Whoever succeeds at this stage, every stage thereafter will be a lot easier. And if he fails at this stage, every stage that will come thereafter will be millions of times more severe. مَا رَأَيْتُ مَنْزَرًا وَالْقَبْرَ أَفْزَعَ مِنْ. I've never seen a scene more frightening than the grave. How do you think the angel will receive that individual who didn't have time for Allah and His Rasul? One that didn't believe that he was going to meet Allah. How do you think the angels Munkar and Nakir will receive him when he's 6 foot under? Let me tell you. أبصارهما كالبرق الخاطف وأصواتهما كالرعد القاصف وأنيابهما كالصياصي. These are the words of my Nabi. This is how they will receive him. أبصارهما كالبرق الخاطف. Their eyes glitter like lightning. Have you seen like lightning flashes? This is how their eyes are. أبصارهما كالبرق الخاطف. When they speak, their voices rumble like thunder. أنيابهما كالصياصي. Their teeth are like the horns of a bull. Their hair reaches to their feet. مع كل واحد عمود من حديد لو اجتمع عليه من في الأرض ما حركوه. Each one carries a hammer of steel. And this hammer that he carries is so big, that if every human that Allah ever created, every jinn that Allah ever created, if they were to get together and try picking up this hammer of steel, they would not be able to move it 1 inch. And they will come with this. And they will smash him with this. 3 simple questions. Man rabbuk? Ma dinuk? Man hadha rajul? Man rabbuk? Who is your Lord? Ma dinuk? What was your deed? Man hadha rajul alladhi bu'itha fikum? Who was this man that was sent amongst you? And I bet you're jumping for joy here. You know what? I know the answer to these questions. So simple. Who doesn't know the answer to these questions? Man Rabbuk. Who is your Lord? My Lord is Allah. Ma dinuk. What is your deen? My deen is Islam. Man hadha rajul alladhi bu'idha fikum. Who was this man that was sent amongst you? Muhammadur Rasulullah. But believe me guys, if you didn't believe, you didn't have time for Allah and His Rasul in the dunya, you wasn't obedient to Allah, you didn't practice your deen. You know, when you're 6 foot under, and this is what you see before you, angels come to you in this form, and this is how they will receive those that were disobedient. Believe me, don't be disappointed if you do not know the answer to these questions and you buckle because of pressure. People buckle because of pressure. How many youngsters, they don't need to take a single lesson and they know how to drive a car, but the day they actually take a test, they fail. Why? Because they've buckled under pressure. How many a times you're so confident before you go into a job interview, but the day you actually go into an interview and you've got 3-4 people firing questions left, right and center, even though you were a master at your particular subject, because of pressure you buckle. Let me give you an example here. Is there anyone in this gathering that doesn't know Surah Al-Fatiha? There won't be a single guy in this gathering that doesn't know Surah Al-Fatiha. Well, you know what? Here and now, randomly, if I were to just pick an individual and say, Haji Sahab, zara aage aa jao, come to the front, and I want you to recite Surah Al-Fatiha with tajweed. I want you to recite Surah Al-Fatiha as it should be recited in front of the masses here. It wouldn't surprise me that in spite of the fact you read Surah Al-Fatiha how many times a day? What, 50 times a day? Fajr, you read Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha, you read in Farz, you read in Sunnat, you read in Witr, you read in Nawafil. It wouldn't surprise me that even though that you read Surah Al-Fatiha 50 times a day, but if I were to just pick one individual here and now and tell him, come to the front, we're all going to listen how you pronounce Surah Al-Fatiha, it wouldn't surprise me if you began Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, and after Maliki Yawmiddin you started seeing stars. Because you buckle under pressure. This is why you find a Hafiz in the month of Ramadan, mashallah, he kills it. Absolutely superb recitation. But you know, the day he's reading Surah Yasin in the 22nd juz, he starts panicking. And the reason he starts panicking is not because he doesn't know Surah Yasin, it's pressure. He knows there's so many people today in the gathering that know Surah Yasin off by heart. And he also knows, you know what? They're waiting for the first opportunity for him to slip. And as soon as he slips, they'll pounce upon him and they will eat him alive and they'll start prompting him and rectifying him. So you know, just this thought on that day, mashallah, the whole of Ramadan he's been reading beautiful recitation, but on that day, just that thought, never mind what you call it, cocking up in Surah Yasin, he'll end up reading, instead of 2 rakats, he'll probably end up reading 3 rakats. That's what pressure does. So if you haven't been practicing and you were not obedient, it would not surprise me when you're 6 foot under and this is what you see. Man rabbuk, ma dinuk, man hazu rajul. You start stuttering, you start faltering, and you start going blank and you have no answer. What excites you with regards to the akhirah? This, that you will stand before the Lord of the Arsh and Kursi. You will stand before the Lord of the heavens and the earth. You will stand before the Lord of the entire universe on a day when Allah will be angry like never before. Allah will never ever have been angry like this before. And Allah will never ever be angry like this again. And Allah will hold you to account like no being within this universe can hold you to account. And Allah will make you pay like no being within this universe can make you pay. You know what it means, the Lord of the Arsh and Kursi? I swear by Allah, if you and I were to come to know what the true meaning of this word, the Lord of the Arsh and Kursi is, I can guarantee you from now till your last breath, you will never ever wrong him. You will never ever disobey him. You will never ever raise your head from prostration till your soul doesn't leave your body. You know, you and I, this dunya fascinates us. And why not? It's created by Allah and how beautiful Allah creates. But what is this dunya that Allah has created in comparison to what is out there? What is this dunya In comparison to what Allah has created out there, what is this dunya in comparison? Over 6 billion people at this moment in time living on this dunya, and there's space here for another 6 billion. But what is this dunya in comparison to what Allah has created out there? Compare it with the sun. Sun rises every morning, you see it rise, and you see it set. Is there any comparison between the dunya and the sun? What is this dunya in comparison to the sun in terms of size? Nothing. You'll tell me that, you know what, Maulana, this dunya is nothing. This sun is thousands and thousands and thousands of times bigger than this dunya that you live in. And then you'll tell me this is just one star. There are stars out there that are hundreds and thousands of times bigger than the sun that we see rising and setting every morning and every evening. And then you'll tell me there are billions and billions and billions of stars out there. And then you'll tell me these billions and billions of stars make one galaxy. And then you'll tell me there are billions and billions of galaxies out there. Yet only recent we were landing on a comet. Was it in November? We were landing on a comet in November. You witnessed it. You were there to live the moment. How far was that comet from this dunya? How far? What, millions and millions of miles? Millions and millions of miles away, and we were receiving messages from there to this dunya. After every few hours, we were receiving messages. What do you think Allah's created out there? Billions and billions of galaxies, and every single thing that I've mentioned at this moment in time is all within the first heaven. All within the first heaven. You know, our little minds can't comprehend Allah. We can't comprehend the greatness of Allah. We can't comprehend what Allah's created out there. Every single thing that I mentioned so far is within the first heaven. How many heavens has Allah created? 7 heavens. 7 heavens. The distance from the first heaven to the second heaven, according to the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is 500 years. It will take 500 years to get from the first heaven to the second heaven. At what speed? Only Allah and Allah alone knows at what speed. That you need to travel to get to the second heaven within 500 years. From the second heaven to the third heaven, it will take 500 years. Third to the fourth, 500 years. Fourth to the fifth, 500 years. Fifth to the sixth, 500 years. Sixth to the seventh, 500 years. After your 7 heavens, you have the kursi of Allah, the chair of Allah. Allahu la ilaha illa wal hayyul qayyum. لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم ولا يحيطون بشيء من علمه إلا بما شاء وسع كرسيه السماوات والأرض. Allah talks about His kursi in Ayatul Kursi in the 3rd juz of the Quran. What this kursi is and how this kursi is, only Allah and Allah Himself knows. But we translate a chair just so that you can understand. How big do you think the kursi of Allah is in comparison to the 7 heavens that I've just mentioned? How big do you think the kursi of Allah is in comparison to the 7 heavens, the size of which I've just given you a brief mention? Let me give you an example. Take a ring. The biggest desert in this dunya is the Sahara. Take a ring and place it in the Sahara desert. What comparison is there? This small ring, and you've got this ocean of a desert. Is there any comparison in terms of size? There is no comparison. The 7 heavens in comparison to the kursi of Allah is like this ring in a desert. The 7 heavens are the ring, and the kursi of Allah is the desert. After the kursi of Allah, you have the arsh of Allah. You have the arsh of Allah. وَكَانَ أَرْشُ عَلَى الْمَاءِ translates throne. It is a makhluk of Allah. Only Allah knows best how this makhluk look like. How big do you think the arsh of Allah is in comparison to the kursi of Allah? Give you exactly the same example, a ring in a desert. The only difference is this time, the ring is the kursi. And the desert is the arsh of Allah. And then my young friends, you have angels that carry this arsh. How many angels do you think will be carrying this arsh on the day of judgment? وَيَحْمِلُ أَرْشَ رَبِّكَ فَوْقَهُمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ ثَمَانِيَةٌ 8 angels will carry the arsh of Allah on the day of judgment. Their heads are in the 7th heaven and their feet are in the lowest earth. And then you have Allah. Then you have Allah, the Lord of the arsh and kursi. And it is this being that you will stand before. The Lord of the arsh and kursi on a day when Allah will be angry like never before. Allah will never ever have been angry like this before. And Allah will never ever be angry like this again. And how will you stand, my young friend? لَيْسَ بَيْنَكَ وَبَيْنَ اللَّهِ حِجَابٌ. This is when you will realize, the joke has come to an end. And this is when you will come to your senses. When you stand before Allah. لَيْسَ بَيْنَكَ وَبَيْنَ اللَّهِ حِجَابٌ. There will be no barrier between you and Allah. There will be no curtain between you and Allah. There will be no wall between you and Allah. You, the servant of Allah, will stand before the Master without any veil or barrier. To one side, there will be Jahannam. To the other side, there will be Jannah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hold you to account for every sin that you committed in the dunya. You think at this moment in time your mother doesn't know, and you get away with murder. Your father doesn't know. You get away with murder. The NYPD don't know, and you get away with murder. But you know what? You kid yourself and you keep on fooling yourself, because the Lord of the Arsh and Kursi knows every single thing. And for every sin that you committed in the dunya, He will hold you to account. For every time you didn't bow down, He will hold you to account. For every time you didn't discharge your zakat, He will hold you to account. For every time you fouled mouth and you swore, He will hold you to account. My young friend, if He so wishes on that day, never mind this, for every breath that you took, He will hold you to account. Every breath that you took, at this moment in time, you don't realize the value of this breath. I swear by Allah, the day it stops and you've gone, and you are now history, 6 foot under. That is the day you'll realize the value of every breath that you take, which you're taking at this moment in time, without you even thinking it is a blessing. Look at what Allah says. أَلْحَاكُمُ التَّكَاثُرُ حَتَّى زُرْتُمُ الْمَقَابِرِ كَلَّا سَوْفَ تَعْلَمُونَ ثُمَّ كَلَّا سَوْفَ تَعْلَمُونَ كَلَّا لَوْ تَعْلَمُونَ عِلْمَ الْيَقِينِ لَتَرَوُنَّ الْجَحِيمَ ثُمَّ لَتَرَوُنَّ عَيْنَ الْيَقِينِ ثُمَّ لَتُسْأَلُنَّ يَوْمَئِذٍ عَنِ النَّعِيمِ. Every single blessing that He gave you is going to hold you to account. Is that what excites you with regards to meeting Allah? I ask you, my young friend, what excites you with regards to the final hour? This, that you will see Jahannam on the plane of resurrection, you're going to see this with your own 2 eyes. Jahannam will be brought on the plane of resurrection. 70,000 rains. On every rain, there will be 70,000 angels pulling and bringing Jahannam on the plane of resurrection. 70,000 rains, ropes. On every rein and rope, there will be 70,000 angels pulling, dragging Jahannam on the plane of resurrection. And believe me, Jahannam on that day will be angry like never before. Why? Because Allah, the creator of Jahannam, will be angry like never before. And Jahannam will be angry because Allah will be angry. You and I cannot even fathom the size of Jahannam. We can't comprehend the size of Jahannam. It is a huge creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah's created this specially for those of His servants that don't have time for Him. They have time for every single thing. They have time to do overtime at work. Work by day, work by night. Cabby by day, cabby by night. They've got time to wine and dine. They've got time to flex. They've got time to watch baseball, basketball, you name it. They've got time to socialize. They've got time to shop. They've got time to fly off to the Caribbean and enjoy the white sand and the crystal clear water. But they haven't got time for Allah. Allah is too much for them. They can't take out 5 minutes a day, 5 times a day and bow down before Allah. This is too much for them. This is for whom Allah has created this Jahannam. My young friends, and this is no ordinary creation. My young friends, it contains punishments beyond our comprehension and wildest dream. You can't even dream about the punishment that Allah has prepared inside Jahannam. From snakes and scorpions as big as mules. From Zamharir to the fire of hell. And you know this fire of hell is no ordinary fire. It's not like any fire in the dunya. Our little bodies can't tolerate the fire of the dunya. Where are our little bodies going to tolerate the fire of Jahannam? The fire there has been burning for how many years? Thousands and thousands of years. This fire has been burning in preparation for the disobedient ones. And you know, the more fuel that you add to a fire, the hotter it becomes. And it's not yellowy orange like the fire in the dunya. The fire of Jahannam is blood. How hot do you think it is? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, just to emphasize the severity of the heat of the fire of hell, just to give us some understanding. In one hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has mentioned 70 times more hotter than any fire in the dunya. In another hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has mentioned 100 times more hotter than any fire in the dunya. Any fire that you will find anywhere, the fire of Jahannam is 100 times more hotter. Jahannamis will be thrown inside the fire. And they will not be like this, like you are in the dunya. Their bodies will be enlarged. Why will their bodies be made big? What's the saying? The bigger you are, the harder you fall. The bigger you are, the more pain you will feel. And the objective is get you to feel this pain so your bodies will be enlarged. How big do you think you will be? Just with regards to the teeth, our beloved Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said that the teeth of a Jahannami will be as big as Mount Uhud in Madinatul Munawwara. As big as Mount Uhud in Madinatul Munawwara, just the teeth. From one shoulder to the other, it will take a rider on a fast horse 3 days to cover the distance. This is how big the bodies will be enlarged. And then, كُلَّمَا نَضِجَتْ جُلُودُهُمْ بَدَّلْنَاهُمْ جُلُودٌ غَيْرَهَا لِيُذُوقُوا الْعَذَابَ. This is the rule of Allah. Every time their skin and their flesh will burn, it will be replaced. Within a zillionth of a second, Allah will replace. New skin, new flesh, and this process of burning and torture and pain will start again and continue, and there is no such thing as end for those that didn't believe. Just like you used to eat in the dunya, you will eat in Jahannam. شجرة الزقوم طعام الأثيم كالمهل يغلي في البطون كغلي الحميم. Allah talks about the tree of Zaqum. So bitter that if one drop were to fall on the dunya, such is the venom, the poison and the bitterness of this tree, nothing would grow in the dunya right till the day of judgment. It would destroy the land. And Allah is saying, Inna shajarat al-zaqum ta'amul athim. The tree of Zaqum is the food of the sinners. Kalmol. Have you seen oil when it boils and bubble? So Allah is saying like oil. It will boil and bubble in their stomachs like boiling water. Kettle in a boiling water boils and bubble. This is how the Zaqum will boil and bubble inside their stomachs. And then they will be given water to drink. Allah says, ثُمَّ يُصَبُّ مِنْ فَوْقِ رُؤُوسِهِمُ الْحَمِيمُ يُسْحَرُ بِهِ مَا فِي بُطُونٍ وَالْجُلُودُ وَلَهُمْ مَقَامِعُ مِنْ حَدِيدٍ. When the Jahannamis take this pot of water to their mouths, it will be so lethal that the flesh of their face will melt in the pot before they even drink it. The flesh of their faces will melt into the pot before they even drink. And when they drink, every organ within the body, it will destroy and melt, and it will leave the back passage. This is just tip of the iceberg. And for those that didn't believe, it will continue forever and ever and ever. 70,000 rains. On every rain there will be 70,000 angels. It will be brought on the plane of resurrection. And when you see Jahannam with your own eyes, Jahannam angry like never before, because Allah will be angry like never before. I swear by Allah, from the first man till the last man, from the first woman till the last woman, when Jahannam is brought on the plane of resurrection, and when Jahannam takes one breath, every single guy will fall flat into prostration. At this moment in time, it's too much to ask people to bow down. Time ही नहीं है यार. अमेरिका में हम रहते हैं, क्या क्या हमने करना है, बच्चों को पालना है. We've got so much to do. This is the big apple. We haven't got time for Allah. You do that in Pakistan. We didn't come migrate here for this. Believe me, on that day, my young friend, you'll realize how big you are, and you'll realize how big Allah is. You'll realize how big Allah is. You'll bow down like you've never bowed before. You'll start screaming like you've never screamed before. You'll start yelling like you've never yelled before. And you'll start begging Allah like you've never begged before. Ke eh Malik, eh Mola, eh Khudaya, oh my Rabb, oh my Allah, I beg you, save me from this thing. Oh Allah, I beg you, save me from this thing. Take my son, take my children, take my wealth, take my entire family. Take all those on the dunya, wallah. Let me be. Oh Allah, do not bring me close to this thing. Oh Allah, take this thing away. You will beg and you will cry and you will yell and you will shout like you've never yelled, cried and begged before. I ask you, my young friend, what excites you with regards to the akhirah? This, that you will be resurrected. يُبْعَثَ النَّاسِ حُفَاةً عُرَاةً غُرْلًا. Every single being will be resurrected. Whether you died on the peak of some mountain, or whether you died at the bottom of some ocean, or the darkness of some jungle, or whether your remains are inside the stomach of some animal, every single being, every single person that Allah created will be resurrected. How? Hufatan. You will be barefooted, just like the day your mother gave you birth. When you came into the dunya, were you wearing your tuxedo or your shoes? No, you wasn't. This is how you'll be resurrected. يُبْعَثَ النَّاسُ حُفَاةً عُرَاةً. You will be all naked, just like the day your mother gave you birth. غُرْلًا. You will be all uncircumcised, just like the day your mother gave you birth. And you will not look at the satar of one another. You know, if there's a fire inside your house, and you went to sleep without clothes on the night before, what? Will you be looking at the satar of one another, or will you be worried about getting out of the house, saving your life one way or another? This is exactly what will happen on the day of judgment. You will not look at the satar of one another. On that day, the only thing that will concern you on that day is one way or another, you will try saving yourself from the fire of hell. That is the only thing. يُحْشِرَ النَّاسِ عَلَىٰ أَرْضٍ. And I want you to visualize this. See if you can picture this in your mind's eye. Because this is what you're going to see. This is exactly what you're going to see. And if you don't see this, then hold my neck on the day of judgment before Allah and say, you know what, this guy came on the 13th of June 2050 in our masjid, and he told a lie. He was speaking a lie. He was telling his jackanores. If you don't see this, hold my neck before Allah, and I'm prepared that you do that. Picture this in your mind's eye, because this is what you're going to see. يُحْشَرَ النَّاسِ عَلَىٰ أَرْضٍ بَيْضَاءَ أَفْرَاءَ. Everybody will be made to assemble on a flat white plane. Flat white plane. يَوْمَ تُبَدُّلُ الْأَرْضِ غَيْرَ الْأَرْضِ وَالسَّمَاوَاتِ وَبَرَزُوا لِلَّهِ الْوَاحِدِ الْقَهَّارِ. This dunya won't be like this dunya. Allah will stretch it. It'll be changed. You know, just like you stretch elastic, rubber bands. Allah will stretch it. There'll be no mountains. وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْجِبَالِ فَقُلْ يَنْسِفُهَا رَبِّي نَسْفًا فَيَذَرُهَا قَاعًا صَفْصَفًا لَا تَرَى فِيهَا عِوَجٌ وَلَا أَمْتًا. No mountains, no hills, no caves, no trees, no places to hide. It will be a flat white plain. Everybody will be within sight and vision. It will be the greatest congregation ever seen. Never mind the Istima in Bangladesh. Or, the sea of people that you see on the plains of Arafat on the day of Hajj. No, my young friend. This will be the biggest congregation ever see. Not 5 million, not 10 million, not a billion, not a zillion. Every single man that Allah ever created. From the first man, from Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam, till the last man will be on the plane of resurrection. Every woman that Allah ever created, from the first woman till the last woman, will be on the plane of resurrection. Every animal that Allah ever created will be on the plane of resurrection. Every jinn Allah ever created will be on the plane of resurrection. Every shaitan Allah ever created will be on the plane of resurrection. And you will be close together, standing so close together, standing so close together. At this moment in time, mashallah, you're sitting, like as if it's this place is 5-star. Ramanal, you're sitting, you're not even touching one another. If you want to extend your hand, you can without touching someone. If you want to bring out your feet, you can do that. This is what will happen on the day of judgment. You will be all intermingled on the plane of resurrection. Visualize this, my young friend, because this is what you're going to see. And you better believe it, because this is God's truth. This is what's going to happen. You're standing so close together, and you're all intermingled. You've got man standing next to woman, woman next to beast, beast next to shaitan, shaitan next to animal. All together, so close together, that my beloved Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said, إن الأقدام يوم القيامة مثل النبل في القرن والسعيد الذي يجد لقدميه موضعا يدهما. The feet on the day of judgment will be like arrows in a pouch. In the olden days, they would fight with arrows. They would shoot arrows. And if you look at the pouch, the arrows are piled in there, so they get as many as they can, and they're literally touching one another. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, on that day, feet will be like arrows in a pouch. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Khush Kismat. The lucky one, the fortunate one, the one that's won the lottery on that day will be who? The person that can actually find a place to put his feet on the ground. Fortunate and lucky will be that person whose souls can feel the hardness of the earth on the plane of resurrection. This person will be the lucky one. Other than that, you'll all be intermingled. You're gonna struggle to breathe. I mean, look, we've got a few hundred people in this masjid at this moment in time, and look at how much body heat our bodies are generating. I'm addressing you, but I'm sweating at this moment in time. This is how hot it is, and all we've got is a few hundred people. Can you imagine the plane of resurrection? There are billions and billions and billions of people, humans, jinnat, animals, males, female, on top of one another, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, you're not even going to find a place for your feet. My young friend, can you imagine the heat that these billions and billions of bodies will be generating on the plane of resurrection? You're going to struggle to breathe. This is just the beginning. What do you think is going to happen next? Allah will bring the sun closer. How close do you think the sun will be on the day of judgment on the plane of resurrection? Hadith says, miqdar mil. It will be at a distance of a mil. Now, what does the word mil mean in Arabic? It can have one of two meanings. Mil as in a mile. How far is the sun at this moment in time? You say millions of miles? Millions of miles, the scientists say the sun is. You're already struggling at this moment in time. How hot is it out there at the moment? 30 degrees? 35, 40 degrees, and you know what? Even your trousers will drop. You'll take off your pants. We can't tolerate 40 degrees centigrade. We start sweating, dehydration. We can't think properly. We can't work properly. You start having a fight with your wife because of the heat. You can't tolerate it. So you use her as an excuse to take out your anger. You can't sleep at night. You start turning. You become restless. This is at 40 degrees and the sun is millions and millions of miles away. What do you think will happen if it's at a distance of a mile? That's just one meaning of the hadith. The other meaning of the hadith, mil in Arabic, for those of you that apply surma. Surma, I think in English you call antimony, collyrium. The needle that you use, which is about this big. For those of you from Pakistan, I'll have seen that surma dani. The needle is about this big. That is what's called mil in the Arabic language. So literally Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is saying, the sun will be above your heads. You know, the Malik and the Khalik that can keep it millions of plus miles away has the power to bring it above your heads as well. And you will sweat like you've never, ever sweated in your entire lives. How much sweat? Well, it all depends on how much sins that you committed in the dunya. The more sin that you committed in the dunya, the more sweat you will be in the hereafter, in the akhirah. There will be people on the plane of resurrection that will be in sweat up to their ankles. There will be people in sweat up to their knees. There will be people in sweat up to their waist. There will be people in sweat up to their chest. And there will be those that will be struggling to keep their heads above their own sweat. And you will suffer like never before. And then, this is just the tip of the iceberg. I haven't got time to give you detail. وَتُفْتَهُ أَبْوَابُ جَهَنَّمْ فَتُحُبُّ عَلَيْهِمْ رِيَاحُهَا وَسَمُومُهَا. I've just told you about Jahannam. The fire's been burning thousands and thousands of years. 100 times more hotter than any fire in the dunya. Jahannam will be brought and the doors of hell will be opened. The doors of hell will be opened and the hot air will blow onto the faces of the people on the plane of resurrection. How hot do you think the air will be on the plane of resurrection? There's billions of you can't even breathe because you're on top of one another. Then you've got the sun above your heads. You're drowning in your own sweat. On top of this, Jahannam will be brought. And the smell, the Nabi of Allah said, it's worse than any rotten corpse. The worst rotten corpse ever found in the dunya. I mean, if you were just to take a mouse, something as small as a mouse were to die inside your house, you can't stay in that house on that day. It stinks. The stench is unbearable when something as much as a mouse is to die under your floorboards or between your walls. You can't stay in the same house. You have to open the doors and everything just to get rid of this smell. The worst smell on this dunya, the smell on the plane of resurrection will be worse than that. And what do you think people will begin to say? People will begin, you're not going to be able to tolerate it. You're not going to be able to tolerate it. Mankind is not going to be able to tolerate. What will mankind say? Ya Rabbi irsaluka bi ila an-nar ahwan alayya mimma ajid. Mankind will say, Ki Allah, send me to the fire of hell. I can't tolerate this. Oh Allah, send me to Jahannam. The punishment of Jahannam is a lot lighter than what I'm experiencing at this moment in time. Oh Allah, just send me to Jahannam. Enough is enough. You will not be able to tolerate so much so that you'll begin to utter nonsense. Not because Jahannam and its punishment is a lot lighter than what will happen on the plane of resurrection on the day of judgment. There is no comparison. The day of judgment, my young friend, كَانَ مِقْدَارُ خَمْسِينَ أَلْفَ سَنَةٍ is only 50,000 years. Jahannam Allah's created specially to punish those that didn't have time for Him. There is no comparison. In Jahannam, if you didn't believe, you'll be there forever and ever, zillions and zillions, and it will continue. There is no end. There is no comparison between the two punishments. But because you will not be able to tolerate this, you will say, Allah, enough is enough. Just send me to Jahannam. And you will cry like you've never cried before. And tears will flow from your eyes. When no tear remains, blood will flow from the same eyes. So much blood will flow, there'll be rivers flowing. And if you wanted to put boats in there, boats would begin to sail because of the blood that has come from your eyes. And you will scream, and you will beg, and you will ask Allah again and again and again. And you will stay like this for years on end. And Allah will not even look at you. Allah will not even look at mankind. And they will suffer like they've never suffered before. So much so that they will say, Ala tara ila ma balagana. Have you not seen the difficulty that they're in? You'll go to Adam, you'll go to Ibrahim, Ismail, one after the other. And the only time, my young friends, when Allah will do tawajjuh is when our beloved Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam will fall in prostration. And he will praise Allah like Allah's never been praised before. With words with which Allah Himself will inspire him and place in the heart of Muhammad. And when he does this, Allah will like this so much that He will say to our beloved Nabi, Ya Muhammad, irfa ra'sak, sal tu'ta washfa tashafa. Oh Muhammad, raise your head. Ask for whatever you like. it will be given to you. Intercede, your intercession will be accepted. Only now will Allah look at you and Rasulullah will say, Ummati, Ummati, and now Allah will come and judge. You know, the same Nabi that today we've severed ties. We've severed ties because our actions clearly show this. When you sit down to eat, how do you eat? Do you eat like the way your Nabi used to do? When you talk, do you talk like the way your Nabi used to talk? When you interact with the wider community, the non-believers, do you do it just like the way your Nabi used to do? When you interact with your wife and you socialize with her, do you do it like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to do with Khadija and Hazrat Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha? When you marry your children of your daughters and your son, do you do the nikah and the walima like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to? No, my young friend. We've severed ties. We declare the kalima la ilaha illallah, but we do not live by the kalima la ilaha illallah. And the only person that will be able to help you on that plane is none other than your Nabi. You know, while this is all going on, I'm going to just sum it up in 5 minutes because your namaz is at 10:15. I've been told to finish off at 10. While this is all happening, I'm cutting it short. There'll be certain individuals. Certain individuals, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Sab'atun yudhilluhumullah fi dhilla yawma la dhilla illa dhilluh." 7 types of individuals will be under the shade of the arsh of Allah, the day there is no shade but the shade of his arsh. In this hadith, there's 7, but if you look at other hadiths, there are other categories mentioned. Now, I'm only going to explain one that concerns us today. One category that will be under the shade of the arsh of Allah, the day there is no shade other than his shade. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Shabun nasha'a fi ibadatillah." That youngster who spent his days of youth worshipping Allah, he will be sitting like a king next to the King of all kings. The day there is no shade other than the shade of the arsh of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He will be sitting like a king next to the King of all kings. You know, when the Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam, the near ones, the dear ones, the chosen ones, even when they will be saying nafsi, 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 and they will be concerned about themselves, this individual will be sitting like a king next to the King of all kings. If this is how Allah is going to honor him on the plane of resurrection, then I ask you, my young friends, what do you think Allah has prepared for him in paradise? If this is how Allah will honor, you know, when all what I've mentioned is happening to the masses, and this guy is, you know, mashallah, taking the chill pill and he's flexing on the plane of resurrection, yeah? How do you think Allah will honor him once he's in paradise? If this is how Allah is honoring him on the plane of resurrection. You know, the lowest jannati, the last guy to enter hell, from the muwahideen, from those that recited the kalima, you know, he's come out after billions and billions of years serving his time. And Allah will say to him, Tamanna, ask for whatever you like. And he's thinking, you know what, I won the lottery here. Allah is saying, ask for whatever you like. And you know, his neighbor used to have this 7 Series BMW, and he's thinking, you know what, I never got one of them in the dunya, let me just ask Allah for it. So he'll say, Allah, give me a 7 Series BMW. That's what tickles my fancy. I could do with one of those. Say, TK, by here. And before he knows it, there's about 100 right in front of him. All different colors, all different specs. And Allah still saying, Tamanna, ask for whatever you like. Obviously now he's going to become courageous and say, you know what, Hazrat? You want to say, oh Allah, what about a Bugatti? You know, not many people with Bugattis, there were special orders in the dunya. I might as well put my order in now. He'll ask for a Bugatti and you know, right in front of him there's a million Bugattis. Take whichever you like or take them all. Allah will keep on saying tamanna, 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 and he will keep on making tamanna. When he's asked for whatever he can think of, Allah will now remind him, okay, you didn't ask for this, ask for it. So he'll ask for it and Allah will give. Allah will say, oh, you didn't ask for this, you forgot to ask for it. Allah will remind him, he will ask, Allah will give. Allah will remind him, he will ask, Allah will give. And this will continue. And at the end, Allah will say, take all this and 10 times as much. This is the last guy that's going to enter Jannah. Last guy. If this how Allah will honor him, then this youngster, that is sitting like a king on the plane of a resurrection, how do you think Allah will honor him when he goes inside paradise? And why will Allah honor him? Because he sacrificed his desires for the sake of Allah. You know, when you're old, you all turn to the house of God. Everyone does. Anyone with a bit of aql, even an ounce of aql, you know, when he's old, he'll turn to the house of Allah. Why will he turn to the house of Allah when he's old? You know, I say to the guys, what sin is he going to commit when he's old? What is he going to be pulling birds in at the age of 75? Ain't going to be doing that now, is he? Yeah, there's nobody but going to be falling for Haji Sahib here, just as an example. Haji Sahib, Buratu Namanai. Yeah, just as an example, I mean, that ain't going to happen now, is it? Yeah, so, you know, you ain't going to go to casino at this age. Everyone have some self-respect because people, you know, worry about people, what people will say if they see me like this. So you don't, you know, everyone turns to the house of God. You don't get on with your wife. And mashallah, the AC's on in summer at home. And in winter, the heating's on. So what better than to spend here? You know, your beard's turned white. You're suffering from arthritis. Your bones are crackling. You've got a stick in your hand. You know, the guys that you used to hang around with, Abdullah, you read his janazah a month ago. Abdul Rahman's already suffering from cancer, and they said he's got 3 days to live. So all your cronies, guys, next to one another, they're all dropping one by one. So you know you're next. So you have that belief and yaqeen, and what do? You come to worship Allah. Because you know Abdullah's gone, Abdul Rahman's gone, it's my turn next. What's going to happen to me? So it's easy to come when you're 70, 75. But you know, at this moment in time, mashallah, you made an amazing sacrifice. Saturday night, you've given preference to Allah and His Rasul. It's so difficult. You know, when you're at your peak, Javani is junoon. It's insanity. It's so difficult for a person, you know, when you're 17, 18, 20, 25, 30, mashallah, good looking, young individual. Yeah? You can pick up anything that you like. And you can do what you like. At this moment in time, you know, if some of you decided not to come here, and you decided to go downtown New York, Times Square, and, you know, do the business, who can stop you? Can anyone stop you? No one can stop you. First of all, you live here, where the law allows you to do anything in that regard. And then, how will your mother and father ever know? And even if they come to know, how can they discipline you? You've got the freedom to do as you like. And it's so easy for you to commit sin, and no one can stop you committing sin. Knowing that, you know what? And you've got that self-control. You've got the shaitan hitting you. You've got your own nafs, your own desire hitting you. You know, speaking to you in your mind, do it. And in spite of that, you say no to the shaitan. And you control your desire, giving preference to Allah and His Rasul. Allah loves that so much, that never mind Jannah, He's prepared to honor you on the plane of resurrection. He's prepared to honor you on the plane of resurrection. That's why Rasulullah said, Shabun nasha'a fi ibadatillah. That youngster that spends his days of youth worshipping Allah. And guys, how difficult can it be? On a serious note, how difficult can it be to live by the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Allah's made it so easy. But you know, at the end of the day, Allah says, إِنَّكَ لَا تَحْدِ مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ. If Allah doesn't give guidance and doesn't give tawfiq, then you can't be guided and you can't do the amal. It's not rocket science. Who does not know why Allah created them? Is there a single guy that doesn't know why Allah's created them? You don't need rocket science for that. I mean, there's not a single thing within this universe, there's no purpose behind it. Give me example of one thing. Look at the chair that I'm sitting on, there's a purpose behind it. The bottle in front of me, the carpet, you know, this mic stand, these switches, the AC, the clock, the fans. There's not a single thing within this universe, there's no purpose behind it. When there's a purpose behind every single thing, Do you think this insan that's sitting here, me and you, the best of Allah's creation, أَفَحَسِبْتُمْ أَنَّمَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ عَبَثًا? You and I, the best of Allah's creation, when there's a purpose behind every single thing within this universe, was there no purpose behind you and me? Did Allah just create us and put us on this dunya to do as we please, live a life like animals, just fulfilling our desires? Is this why Allah created us? Surely there must have been a purpose. Allah didn't allow you to use your own intellect for this. He didn't want you to cock up. This is how merciful He is. For this, He sent our beloved Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And He sent the book, the Quran, which is here and will remain right till the day of judgment. And He wrote it inside there crystal clear. So you don't cock up. He doesn't want you to go to Jahannam. He wrote in there, oh insan, I'm not letting you work it out for yourself. Let me tell you, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. That the only reason I created you was so you bow down. Bas. That's all I want. After, مَا أُرِيدُ مِنُم مِّن رِزْقٍ. I don't want any risk from you. I don't want you to work day and night and give me. I'm not interested. The only thing I'm interested in is that you bow down. And for how long does Allah want you to bow down? And then to make it easy for you, He sent Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to show you how you should bow down, how you should live. You know, if a guy, I'm going to give you an example here, GCSE exams, now, they've just taken place. Your teacher, maths teacher, has sat down with you and he's told you this is what's going to come in your exam, and he's done the paper with you 50 times. And then on the day of the exam, he gives you exactly the same paper and you cock up. Will there be a fool bigger than you? The teacher went over the same paper 50 times with you before the exam. On the day of the exam, he gave you the exact same paper. If you now cock up, there is no bigger bewakoof than you within this universe. What more can the teacher do to pass you after that? Allah did exactly the same. He sent His Nabi, 23 years of his life, He answered this one question. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. And He taught us how you should fulfill. He gave us the answer, okay, bye, do this, do this, do this. And we have that today. It's alive in the form of the Sunnah, in the form of the Hadith and the Quran. It's alive. We still have it. This is what Allah will ask us on the day of judgment. If you are still not able to answer, there is no bigger fool than you within this universe. And for how long does Allah want you to fulfill this? Look how big your life is in terms of the akhirah. Final thing. How big is your life in terms of the akhirah? It's nothing. Akhirah, one day, is equal to 1,000 years of this world. One day, كَأَلْفِ سَنَةٍ مِمَّا تَعُدُونَ. One day of the akhirah is 1,000 years of this life. How long do you actually live for? Let's say you're a lucky guy and you lived 100. You hit a century. Imran Khan. Yeah, you look at, you lived 100 years. What is 100 years in comparison to one day of the akhirah? One day of the akhirah is 1,000 years. You lived for 100. You didn't even live for a tenth of a day. This is your life. This is your life. You lived for a tenth of a day. How much is a tenth of a day? 24 hours? 2.5 hours? Your life is 2.5 hours. That's it. And for 2.5 hours, Allah said, just listen. Listen to what I'm saying and do as I tell you to do. Don't listen to the shaitan. Sacrifice your desires. Get a grip of yourself. And Allah said, for these 2.5 hours, if you do what I say, I will give you مَا لَا عَيْنٌ رَأَتْ وَلَا أُذُنٌ سَمِعَتْ وَلَا خَطَرَ عَلَى كَلْبِ بَشَرٍ. Blessings which no eye has seen, which no ear has heard, and the thought of which has never crossed the mind of a human being. That's all Allah is asking in a nutshell. And if we can't control ourselves, our desires, and then we cock up big time, who can we blame thereafter other than ourselves? What I've said today is not rocket science. It's simple. But at the end of the day, if you listen with sincerity, inshallah, it won't leave the other ear. It will enter and it will settle in the heart. If you desire to make change, you can make it here and now. Allah is the Arhamur Rahimin, the Akram. When He introduces Himself in the Quran, what does He say? Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. This is how He introduces Himself. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. I'm the most merciful and the most kind. And He's waiting for us to make change. And He doesn't care what sin that you've committed prior to this. You know, if here and now with sincerity, you say, oh Allah, forgive my past life. What I've done was wrong. I've now realized. And you regret from within your heart. And then you promise Him, oh Allah, I will never do it again. You know, here in this gathering, He will purify you just like the day your mother gave you birth. You will be free and pure from sin. It's simple as this. And from now onwards, try your utmost best to live a good life. And I swear by Allah, if you live a good life, Allah will honor you in the dunya and He will honor you in the akhirah. Don't believe me? Act upon it. And if you don't see it, then hold me to account on the day of judgment. Allah says, لَنُحْيِيَنَّمْ حَيَاةٌ طَيِّبَةٌ. Allah promises, those who do good deeds, those who fulfill their purpose in life, He'll give them a stress-free life in the dunya. The dunya won't worry you. But again, it's about understanding. It's about putting it into practices. You know, we're living in the West. It's so difficult. So much temptation, so much desire. But we can do it. By the grace of Allah, some of you are already doing it. And if the rest of them can do it, then we can all do it. Live as believers and hopefully die as believers. Allah give me the tawfiq to act upon what I've said. Allah give you the tawfiq. Wa akhiru dawana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.